So many years of catastrophe, more than 6 million refugees. It could be you and your family, forced from your home and your history.
We are the people, and this is our time. Stand up, sing out for Palestine.
Welcome to Palestine Today. This is Kathleen, your host of Palestine Today, and my co-host is Harry Fear. Hi, Harry. How are you doing?
Hi, Kathleen. I'm doing okay.
You're doing okay? Well, you know what we're doing? We're trying to get Mr. Yuri Avery, who is the peace activist in Israel. We're trying to get him on the line. We're having difficulty. But also, first, I'd like to say that Palestine Today is a show here that Harry and I created to give you the unfiltered truth about the Israel-Palestine issue. Truth you will get nowhere else. Isn't that right, Harry?
Absolutely. And we need your support for that to continue.
We need your support for that to continue. In fact, we do ask for donations. You can go directly to my website, thekathleenwellshow.com, and click on PayPal, Donate to Palestine. What is it? The PayPal button, Donate to Palestine Today. And those donations go directly to supporting all the production expenses at Palestine Today. We have to pay for our airtime here at KCAA, and so it is essential that if you want this show to continue, that you help us make it continue and helping us is keeping the show on the air. So this is our plea. This is our plea to you to help us keep Palestine Today on the air. Listen, let me tell you something. You will not get the truth about Palestinians, not in the mainstream media. No way, Jose. It's not there. But there are just a few stations in the West that will give you the truth about Israel and Palestine. A few stations, that's this station, KCAA, and also Jeffrey Blankford station, it's in Mendocino County, KZYX in Mendocino County, and also Don Bastante's channel, KPFK. Those are the only 3 stations in the West that I know of. If there's more, please someone let me know. But those are the only 3 stations in the West that I know of where you can get the truth about the Palestinian situation. And we know that the Palestinians are involved in peace talks again with the Israelis, prompted by Secretary of State John Kerry. Where will those peace talks go? We don't know. We're still going to try to contact Mr. Evney. He's an Israeli. He's a peace activist. He's been involved in this struggle, in this issue for decades, many decades. We're still going to try and connect with him. But in the meantime, is there anything you'd like to add, Harry?
Yeah, I just wanted to consider actually how many Israelis we'd had on the program before. I think this could be one of the very first.
Well, actually, we had Miko Peled. Remember? We had Miko.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So it's just been Miko and now Yuri, and we're going to still try and get him. We're going to really try. He agreed to be on the show, but I think we're just having technical difficulties with our Skype. That happens.
Hello.
Oh, who is this?
This is Nima.
Oh, hi, Nima. How are you? I thought you were Mr. Avery. You know what? We're trying to connect with Mr. Avery on Skype, but we haven't been successful. But, hey, we appreciate you joining us because you were with us last week. And so now we can continue that discussion where we were talking about Egypt and the turmoil there.
Sure.
But you know what? In fact, why don't we take a break? Because I'm sort of, getting things all straight in my head right now. Why don't we take a break right now, Joe? And we'll come back in like 3 minutes, and then we should have everything straight. So this is Palestine Today. We have Nima, who was a guest last week. He's a Persian Iranian blogger, and we were talking about Egypt. We're waiting to get Yuri Avery, and of course we have my all-time favorite co-host, Harry Fear. We'll be right back. We'll be back.
We are the people, and this is our time. Stand up, sing out for Palestine.
PDM Web Solutions is the place to go for all of your web design and online marketing needs. And we're located right by you in Riverside. At PDM Web Solutions, we build websites with an emphasis on business marketing, upgradability, and easy editing that grow with your business and won't leave you boxed in. And now we're offering an extra special. Mention the Kathleen Wells Show or Palestine Today when you come to PDM Web Solutions, and we'll give you a 10% discount. That's right, a 10% discount. Check out our website at pdmwebsolutions.com or give us a call at area code 951-543-7608. You can check out Kathleen's website to see our work, too. That's PDM Web Solutions at area code 951-543-7608. Also, like us on Facebook. That's facebook.com/PDM Web Solutions. Reliable, fast, and creative. That's PDM Web Solutions.
Hi, this is Kathleen Wells, host of Palestine Today, which airs every Saturday at 11 a.m. right here on KCAA. And guess what? My co-host, Harry Fair, and I bring you the unfiltered truth. That's right, the unfiltered truth regarding Israel and Palestine every Saturday. You will hear from Palestinians directly. You will get their perspective and point of view directly right here on Palestine Today. However, to keep the show on the air, we need you. We need you to help us make this happen. So please consider making a donation so that Palestine Today can stay on the air. Go to my website, thekathleenwellsshow.com, click on the PayPal button, and all donations go directly to the production cost of keeping Palestine Today on air. No longer do you have to rely on the mainstream media spin about this region. No longer do you have to wonder, why is U.S. policy partial or slanted towards the Israel perspective? And no longer will you sit perplexed, wondering why U.S. soldiers are consistently deployed to this region. Harry and I are here to bring you the news that you will get nowhere else in the mainstream media. Palestine Today. We need you to keep the show on the air. Donate at thekathleenwellsshow.com.
Donate right now at thekathleenwellsshow.com. That's thekathleenwellsshow.com. Donate to Palestine Today. Click on PayPal. Donate right now at thekathleenwellsshow.com. Are you fascinated by the Middle East, but worried that U.S. foreign policy may lead yet to another war? Do you care about civil rights? For the past 30 years, the Washington Report on Middle East Affairs has brought its readers the real news, minus the corporate media spin. Read about Palestinians trying to survive the world's largest occupation. Learn how your hard-earned tax dollars fund that illegal occupation. Find out how much your members of Congress has received from pro-Israel PACs, and much, much more. Visit the Washington Report's website, www.wrmea.org, or call 888-881-5861 to request a free sample copy. Better yet, subscribe. It's only $29 for 9 issues. Mention Palestine Today and get a bonus gift.
KCAA Radio, AM 1050. Hey, tell a friend. AM 1050.
So many years of catastrophe, more than 6 million refugees. It could be you and your family, forced from your home and your history.
We are the people, and this is our time. Stand up, sing out for Palestine.
Welcome back. This is Palestine Today. I'm Kathleen Wells, your host, and I'm joined by my co-host, Harry Fear, and we're both delighted to have the show. You know what? What was going to take place was that we were going to have our guest, Yuri Avery, who's a peace activist who's been involved with the Israel-Palestine conflict for decades, literally for decades. I think Yuri even, if I'm not mistaken, he even served in the war between. Oh, I don't want to say anything because I think I'm going to say the wrong thing, and I don't have it in my notes, so I don't want to say it. But what I do want to say is that, since we're having technical difficulties and we can't get Yuri, and I promise you I'll get him back for next week or another week. We're going to now talk about Egypt. What's that conflict, that violence, that unrest? What is it? That revolutionary thing that's taking place? Is it a revolution or is it a counter-revolution? Was it a military coup or not? These are the questions we're asking ourselves. How will this adversely impact the region? How will it adversely impact Gaza? What will it mean for the United States? These are issues that we're going to explore again with the guests. We had them on last week, but we only were able to have them on briefly. So we've brought them back. We have Hesham Haggag from Egypt. He's an Egyptian born in Luxor. We also have Nima Azal, who's an Iranian and a professional blogger who's very familiar with the region. And we have my co-host, Harry Fierce. So I'm very delighted to have all three of you. Welcome to Palestine Today.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Thank you.
Well,
last week we didn't exactly do the situation, the increasingly grave situation, really any justice with that sort of 5-minute chat at the end of last week's show. So we have the rest of this show, about 45 minutes now, to talk about what's going on in Egypt. And I guess our two guests, in a way, represent quite a similar position. So I will be devil's advocate as much as possible. But just to start with, Hesham, could you just again give us your general comment on what's happened certainly in the last week in Egypt?
Yeah, sure. Hi, first, thank you for taking me back in on the show tonight. As you know, as we already know, or the world already know, the MP is having trouble accepting the fact that they have been ousted, and there are demonstrations.
Sorry to interrupt you, Hesham. Can I just make sure that neither of our guests are typing, because we can hear the typing very loudly live on the radio. So if you just mute your microphone if you're typing. Please continue.
Yes, please. The thing is, ousting the MB, as we know already now, and the whole world knows, has disrupted many power balances in the world. There was a sort of agreement that many people actually in the West doesn't understand what's going on in that regard. I mean, the media is taking far in regard of saying Obama is behind the terrorists, is aiding the terrorists, and that sort of thing. But let us be frank on it. It is not just that. What we believe, or what I believe, and I'm not just one person in the country who thinks so. We believe that America and the West were considering giving the terrorists a country in order to just get rid of them. Contain them
when we say the terrorists, who are we talking about actually? Because increasingly the word terrorist has become, in a way, synonymous with Muslim Brotherhood supporters or pro-Morsi supporters. And there are terrorists in the North Sinai. But how is it actually, could you explain that there has been this development where people widespread, to a large extent in Egypt, ordinary people actually believe that there is a real terrorism problem with pro-Morsi supporters? How can that be?
They all come from the same tree. I mean, they are all based on the same facts of the MB are presenting to the world. I mean, the MB is the father or mother or whatever you may call them to all terrorist groups in the world. Al-Qaeda, Taliban, they're all under the MB umbrella. They all carry the same agenda. I don't know how much he knows about the MB, but Al-Baghdad, but he has this Islamic world united under one flag, and the Caliph, you know the word, the supreme ruler of the Islamic world idea, and the MB is carrying that since 1948. And it's on and on and on. So then came one of their most notorious writers who wrote the book on that. And since then, They are all following the same rule, all of them. Azawadi, Bin Laden, they were all envy. Azawadi now...
I want to go to you and just ask you about this, because it's very striking to me. Having been on the streets of Egypt just a couple of weeks ago and spoken to Egyptians, and also to have thoroughly researched and understood Islamophobia in the West, and particularly in Western Europe, the kinds of developments that we're seeing on the streets of, for example, Cairo, that bearded men are now increasingly in fear of gangs trying to pick out the apparently pious, the one Egyptian man who may be more loyal to the Muslim Brotherhood just because of the length of his beard, or the woman who's covering more of her skin. These kinds of prejudices and the kind of idea that every Islamist entity is somehow linked with Al-Qaeda, these are actually tenets of Islamophobia in the West, no?
They are, but
you do actually.
But you have to look at this issue a little bit more critically. The Islamophobes may have certain details about the situation correct, but their overall analysis of the situation is completely wrong. What Hesham just said in its overall details is actually right. This is the case. In one way or another, the Sunni takfiri extremist ideology that we have seen grow over the last 20 years has very solid Muslim Brotherhood roots, going back to the writings of people like Hassan al-Banna and Sayyid Qutb. But let's also factor in here the influence of both the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the Wahhabi ideology that they themselves have exported. The Muslim Brotherhood and the Wahhabis of Saudi Arabia are technically rivals. What has happened, unfortunately, over the last 30, 40 years is there has been a convergence between various dissident Wahhabi elements in the Saudi kingdom and the Muslim Brotherhood, who, pretty much since the British left the region, have become the Islamist dissidents to basically all the regimes in the region. What has occurred, especially over the last 10 years, progressively, is that, especially in the Gulf kingdoms, particularly like Qatar, have found a usefulness in the Muslim Brotherhood. And this is why, for example, in Syria at the moment, and over the last 2-3 years, you have found such an overwhelming amount of investment by the Qatari Emirates in these various Islamist and Takfiri groups that are fighting, who are basically mercenaries, fighting to overthrow the Assad Ba'athist regime. The same situation, although with some minor details, is also presently happening in Egypt. I am not convinced one bit by a lot of the analysis that we're getting from the Western media about how firmly rooted the Muslim Brotherhood as a political force really is in Egypt. The overwhelming number of the Egyptian middle class, and even some amongst its arguably working and peasant class, are not sympathizers of the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood, from my understanding in Egypt, represents a very specific subculture or cross-section of a professional religious middle class in Egypt, and more radicalized working class and peasant elements.
Yeah, but they won the majority of votes. They were voted in.
That actually is not the case. The Morsi's Freedom and Justice Party did not win overwhelming number of votes. I mean, they came a little under 1 million shy of winning against the rival Ahmad Shafiq in only the second round. And even to this day, there are overwhelming number of reports that there was a lot of vote rigging in various towns and villages in Upper Egypt. They were stuffing ballot boxes. The Muslim Brotherhood was going and intimidating people to vote for their candidate. All these reports are there. I think we need to get away from this simplistic narrative that just because last May and last June 2012 people went to the polls, that the elections in Egypt necessarily constituted a very pure and pristine democratic election. that was not the case. I mean, the alternative press, to their credit, was all over this last year. But in the United States and in some parts of here in Europe, and especially for the mainstream press in the UK, the narrative is, the line is, the spin is that this was a democratic election. Morsi was a democratically elected leader, and that he was overthrown by crypto-fascists or crypto-militarist military, completely glossing over the fact that 2-3 days before the fall of Morsi, we had 17 million people in Tahrir Square. This was the largest.
Yeah, Hesham, I want to go back to you on this, because let's say, for example, okay, the election last year was not pristine, if there was a pristine example to compare it with, but in fact, if Morsi didn't get a massively strong and kosher majority, that doesn't give us the right, or anyone the right, or even enough million Egyptians the right to have him militarily ousted, does it? And the second question here, are the numbers that there are X million Egyptians in the street, are they real? Because surely the military and the new government have an interest in manipulating the Egyptian media, and therefore manipulating also the international media with the raw numbers of support in the millions that they might have. And I saw some independent analysis which suggested that both the Brotherhood and the military were overwhelmingly, on both sides, exaggerating the numbers, in a way propagandizing the reality. And the real image that it was suggested was that most Egyptians really weren't actually in the street demonstrating about what was going on.
I don't know. You could. Sorry.
Hesham.
Let me take a couple of minutes to explain something here that is crucial to the subject, because we need to set the basis of what we are talking about here. It's really important to understand that the relationship between the states and the MB back on 2001. After the 9/11, there was the need started to show up that the U.S. needs, failing the battle against terrorism in the world, going to Afghanistan, the price was too high, Iraq and so on, and the need to have moderate Islamist group in the area that will contain whatever you might call the fanatic Muslims or whatever we call them, was imminent. So they were looking, at that time the MB introduced themselves to the US and the West as a moderate Islamic group. So we, starting from there, we are talking about building up their power industry. The American administration put some pressure on Mubarak to lay down a little bit, give them some leeway, let them go into elections and sort of. So now we are facing this situation here in Egypt. Yes, true, Morsi was democratically elected. I'm not going to argue that or say it was a false election or anything like that. Yes, he was democratically elected. But what he did, after weeks of his election, he made himself supreme ruler of Egypt. He issued decrees that the Egyptians will not accept. That is for one. The real problem here, let me explain, it's not the numbers in the streets. The MB succeeded in making every faction of the country to stand against them. The judicial system, the military, the police, the media, newspapers, you call them, you name them, traders, workers, labor, farmers. So if we are talking about numbers in the street, if you are going to count people by numbers, I mean 1, 2, 3, and so on, yes, you are right. They might not be that many.
I see. Well, actually, it's the half hour now, so I'd like to take a break. And after the break, we'll talk more about what is likely to be the outcome for Palestinians in Gaza and for Egyptians in the future.
Okay, we're going to go to a break, and we'll be right back with Harry Fair, Hesham Haggag, and Nima Azal. We'll be right back.
So many years of catastrophe, more than 6 million refugees. It could be you and your family, forced from your home and your...
PDM Web Solutions is the place to go for all of your web design and online marketing needs. And we're located right by you in Riverside. At PDM Web Solutions, we build websites with an emphasis on business marketing, upgradability, and easy editing that grow with your business and won't leave you boxed in. And now we're offering an extra special. Mention the Kathleen Wells Show or Palestine Today when you come to PDM Web Solutions, and we'll give you a 10% discount. That's right, a 10% discount. Check out our website at pdmwebsolutions.com or give us a call at area code 951-543-7608. You can check out Kathleen's website to see our work, too. That's PDM Web Solutions at area code 951-543-7608. Also, like us on Facebook. That's facebook.com/PDM Web Solutions. Reliable, fast, and creative. That's PDM Web Solutions.
Hi, this is Kathleen Wells, host of Palestine Today, which airs every Saturday at 11 a.m. right here on KCAA. And guess what? My co-host, Harry Fair, and I bring you the unfiltered truth. That's right, the unfiltered truth regarding Israel and Palestine every Saturday. You will hear from Palestinians directly. You will get their perspective and point of view directly right here on Palestine Today. However, to keep the show on the air, we need you. We need you to help us make this happen. So please consider making a donation so that Palestine Today can stay on the air. Go to my website, thekathleenwellsshow.com, click on the PayPal button, and all donations go directly to the production cost of keeping Palestine Today on air. No longer do you have to rely on the mainstream media spin about this region. No longer do you have to wonder, why is U.S. policy partial or slanted towards the Israel perspective? And no longer will you sit perplexed, wondering why U.S. soldiers are consistently deployed to this region. Harry and I are here to bring you the news that you will get nowhere else in the mainstream media. Palestine Today. We need you to keep the show on the air. Donate at thekathleenwellsshow.com.
Donate right now at thekathleenwellsshow.com. That's thekathleenwellsshow.com. Donate to Palestine Today. Click on PayPal. Donate right now at thekathleenwellsshow.com. Are you fascinated by the Middle East, but worried that U.S. foreign policy may lead yet to another war? Do you care about civil rights? For the past 30 years, the Washington Report on Middle East Affairs has brought its readers the real news, minus the corporate media spin. Read about Palestinians trying to survive the world's largest occupation. Learn how your hard-earned tax dollars fund that illegal occupation. Find out how much your members of Congress has received from pro-Israel PACs, and much, much more. Visit the Washington Report's website, www.wrmea.org, or call 888-881-5861 to request a free sample copy. Better yet, subscribe. It's only $29 for 9 issues. Mention Palestine Today and get a bonus gift. Playgrounds for Palestine is a non-for-profit 501c3 organization dedicated to upholding the Palestinians' child's rights to play. This is a right enshrined in the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. We operate through a volunteer board and staff, the generosity of our supporters, and a lot of heart. To date, Playgrounds for Palestine has constructed 15 playgrounds in Palestine, as well as refugee camps in Lebanon and Syria. To contribute to this most worldly cause, please go to our website at www.playgroundsforpalestine.org or send a check to Playgrounds for Palestine, P.O. Box 559, Yardley, Pennsylvania 19067 at www.playgroundsforpalestine.org.
Don't miss a minute of the action. Check out the podcasts at www.kcaaradio.com. The station that leaves no listener behind, AM 1050 KCAA.
So many years of catastrophe, more than 6 million refugees. It could be you and your family, forced from your home and your history.
We are the people, and this is our time. Stand up, sing out for Palestine.
Welcome back to Palestine today. Initially, we had Israeli peace activist Yuri Avni scheduled to be our guest today. However, we were having technical difficulties. And so I'm absolutely delighted that Hesham Haggag Ami, Egyptian from, I think he was born in Luxor. I didn't bring up my notes, sorry, but that's okay. But I know he's an Egyptian. Hesham, you were born in Luxor, right?
Actually, Hisham's Skype broke down a few minutes ago. Probably electricity problems. But Nima's with us.
Okay,
I'm
so
with you.
with you. Nima's with us, and we love Nima because he was on last week and he was giving us some really interesting information, very insightful, something I wasn't familiar with, something I don't hear from, a different point of view, and we appreciate it. So we're talking about the Egyptian unrest that has been going on for 2 weeks, a little more than 2 weeks. It's a lot more than that. A little more, yeah. Some have characterized it as a civil war, others have not. Some have said it's a military coup, others have not. But now we're going to get Hesham back, hopefully, right? But we've got Nima and Harry, and you guys can take it away.
Nima, I want to ask you about this civil war thing that Kathleen touched on, actually. This was my next question. Because it seems to me the thing which is most dangerous in the situation in Egypt and for Egyptians is this polarization between the people of Egypt. Does it have the profundity that this could become a civil war or a kind of perpetual internal conflict or internal problem? What do you think?
Absolutely, that could happen. We saw it happen in Syria. We saw it briefly in Libya before the fall of Gaddafi and slightly after it. But I need to bracket something here in that question, in answering that question, by saying that in my belief and based on very credible evidence, my opinion about all of this is that it is being very deliberately orchestrated from outside, the whole of the Arab Spring, as a matter of fact. And the reason for this is very easily explainable, is because Egypt and the whole of the Middle East represents a key block in an emerging geopolitical and economic war between what is called the Eurasian multipolar bloc, led by Russia, China, and some of the emerging global south economies like Brazil's and Latin America, and the traditional unipolar Anglo-American, European, and Zionist bloc with the United States, Great Britain, and Israel as the senior partners. This is what is going on. Hello?
I think Hesham is back with us. I'm just speaking with Nima at the moment. I mean, Nima, I wanted to respond to that quickly. For a lot of people, that analysis is kind of mind-blowing, even if people believe it. This is pretty scary stuff. I mean,
it is scary stuff.
What rationale is there for it?
The rationale is a global resource war. This is what it's about. Russia, after the fall of the Soviet Union, didn't completely go away. The Chinese came back, in not so much propped up Russia, but became the rival of the Atlanticist bloc. And the Middle East, as it was back in the 19th century during the Great Game, is still the major nexus of who gets to control what resources in the world. And this is the bottom line. And Egypt, if people have followed the trajectory of events in Egypt since the beginning of the last decade, was more and more reluctant, especially under the yoke of its IMF debt slavery. This is the bottom line. It's that the Anglo-American Atlanticist bloc more and more wishes to take control of economies. And those governments and those forces within those traditional forces within those countries who resisted are then targeted for regime change. This happened in Libya. Gaddafi was working very hard, for example, to bring in an African currency create an African Union as a kind of a block against the European Union and North America. And immediately within less than 2 years after this really got into gear, the wheels of that really got into gear, we had the so-called revolution. I don't believe anything that we have seen since 2011 in North Africa and the Middle East constitutes a revolution. These are orchestrated events, and there are beneficiaries to these orchestrated events, namely the United States and its allies. Because if this was a bona fide revolution and these Western governments really wanted to stand behind the people, then why isn't anything being done by the United States government or Great Britain about the situation in Bahrain or the uprisings that have happened in pockets all over Saudi Arabia for the last decade? Why Egypt? Why Libya? Why Syria? Well, quite frankly, because
understand this. I mean, in a way, you're suggesting it's a kind of allowing the situation to develop like this in Egypt without intervention or without taking a stand against it, or even somewhat instigating it or helping instigate it. This is
these are soft interventions. I mean, I would get yourself and your listeners to look into the activities of an organization set up by the CIA called the National Endowment for Democracy. A friend of mine has done quite a bit of research on this, and the tentacles of this organization and its subsidiaries are all over the planet,
So the idea here is developing a kind of, looking at the situation in Egypt now, suggesting that perhaps there's a kind of shock doctrine where somehow the economy or the instability could be used or taken control of to the benefit of the Western states.
Absolutely. I mean, some of the things I have heard back from people over the last 2 years, bloggers, Egyptian bloggers, stuff that you don't usually read in the mainstream press, is that the Egyptian leadership during the time of Mubarak, I think Mubarak was corrupt, I think he was a dictator, all of that, but was that Mubarak and the Egyptian elite were trying to find ways to extract Egypt out of the International Monetary Fund debt slavery and the debt regime, just like Iceland did it in the last 2 years, and just as Hungary is about to do it almost imminently. So
Hesham, I want to go to you. Actually, what do you see in terms of foreign intervention or the motive for foreign intervention with the situation in Egypt? I hear among, for example, pro-Palestinian circles, people say, oh, well, look at what's happened to Gaza now. The instability has all but shut down the border with Gaza. It must have been Israel behind this, or certainly Israel was behind it to an extent. To what extent, Hesham, is this just an Egyptian issue, an Egyptian internal issue, or to what extent has there been intervention?
By the way, I agree to what Nima just said, and I would like also to add another issue to discuss, to lay down a little bit of what I know about the situation in Israel and the Palestinians. But many people don't know why the Israelis are taking over more land of the Palestinians and won't give them back that land. Many people don't know this, but it's a water war going on there. The Israelis can't give back the Palestinians the land they took because it's where the water is. Simple and pure. It's a water war. Now, for Egypt situation, we are not against the Palestinians, by the way. We spent the last few decades defending the Palestinian issue, and we went to 3 wars for the Palestinians. We are not going to let go now. I mean, this is out of the question. The thing is, we are trying to avoid now is we don't want Hamas to stay a separate Emirat or state out of the all Palestinian state. We hate that situation. We don't like it, and we want them to go back, sit down with the rest of their brothers, cousins, and whatever, and discuss the issues and go back to the normal system of a normal one Palestinian state. We are not accepting the fact that due to the tunneling and the situation in Gaza, that they will take over the place and declare themselves a separate state, and Palestine too. That is not acceptable by the Egyptians. We didn't fight 3 wars for them to end up having their own state for Hamas. And by the way, not all people do like Hamas. We know that for a fact. So who says that they can terrorize the people there and take their own state and make it Palestine number 2? We are fighting for what everybody actually needs to see someday, one united Palestine country.
Well, Hesham, let me ask you a question. You said you agreed with everything that Nima said. So basically what
Yes, I do.
Yeah, you agree. And Nima is saying that the Egyptian counter-revolution, what is taking place now, the civil unrest, is sort of like staged. You agree with that?
Yeah. Yes.
You agree with that?
I do. He's right.
Okay, so Hesham, the most important thing is, as an Egyptian yourself, from what forces do you think, at least to an extent, it has been staged? You immediately said Israel and water wars. Do you think Israel has some intervention, or the United States, or who?
No. They are shocked like everybody else. They based all their bidding on the wrong horse, so to say. I mean, everyone thought they believed in the MD and their power on the ground and their extension in the country, and that they will sort of have everything under control. They were deceived, like the West, that the MB is not what they claim to be. The Israelis have a benefit of getting the MB to power, because they can put a leash on the extremists in Gaza and stop the rocketing and bombing or kidnapping or whatever incidents that going between them. And that's what Morsi actually offered to do, and the MB did for the last year. And taking them out of the picture, of course, unsettles things for them in Gaza Strip and Sinai, which is against their best interest, of course. And we have to understand that. So Israel, of course, doesn't have a hand on this because it's against their will. They were surprised, too. Everybody was, actually, to come to think of it. Everybody based their bets on the wrong, based on wrong assumptions about the Egyptian people, that they have been on the streets for over 18 months rioting and demonstrating. They must have been violent. They are not going to revolt against the MB. They based their assumption also on the army, the military, that has been also in the streets for the couple of years, taking offensive media against them, the rebels insulting them all the time, claiming them traitors and stuff like that. There was the assumption that the Egyptian community has got of the continuous unrest in the country was also another wrong assumption. We proved them all wrong, and we on the 30th of June we took to the streets and we ousted. That's as simple as that. So Israel has nothing to do with it. The States has nothing to do with it. The Western world in general has nothing to do with it. The fact that some Arab countries, after the 30th of June, ousting of the has stood next to us, of course, has something to do with...
Hesham, we actually have a call-in from Gaza. One of our previous guests, Mohammed Abdullah, called in and wanted to comment about the situation vis-a-vis Israel, Gaza and Egypt. Mohammed, are you there?
Yes. Hello.
How do you respond as someone in Gaza seeing the situation unfold in Egypt? To what extent do you think it's just an Egyptian issue without any interference? I mean, the Palestinians know so well the cynical and clandestine behaviors of Israel behind the scenes and the real, for example, the water war that Hesham mentioned or Nima mentioned. What do you think?
Well, first of all, I agree with Mr. Hesham about two important points. First, about the Israeli war, which towards the water, and they are trying to take the water of whole Palestine, not just Gaza Strip, not just any area in specific. And the other thing that he is really promoting for united Palestinian and not just be like just one state in Gaza Strip. But at the same time, I would like to add two important points. First of all, about our situation in Gaza towards Egyptian. We know that we have a very strong relations with the Egyptians, and they are very close to us. But our rule should be, and not just our rule, and the whole media rule should be, and sadly that's what I'm not seeing it, especially in the international media rule, that we shouldn't take a part. We should always be promoting for this is Egyptian conflict. It's not Egyptian-Israeli conflict. It's not good at all to promote or to pick a side at all. It's good to say that these Egyptians to sit together and to solve their own problems without any more killing, because any killing happen is not in the benefit of anyone. And
the Palestinians know that all too well with the disunity between Fatah and Hamas and the bloodiness of that, for example.
That's exactly what happened here before, and that's what's exactly happening right now in Egypt. And that's why we are so afraid about Egypt, because of the separation. And I really afraid about in some point maybe we are going to talk about two states in Egypt, and this is that's more terrible. Sad. Yeah, this is very terrible, really. And the other thing that I think that Egyptians should know that when they really hit the tunnels and close the borders, it's not just about stopping Hamas government here for being like an one-state solution, but people who are really suffering from that. And we see really the consequences of Israeli involving in that. Before, Israelis always targeted the tunnels because this is the only life way for Gaza Strip. But right now, sadly, Egyptians themselves, they destroy the tunnels, and they don't, and at the same time they don't give us any other solution, such like we were promoting for making like a trade area in Rafah, between Rafah and Egypt, but the Egyptian authority also refused that, and this is sad, really. So we have to separate between Hamas itself and what the Egyptians, their point of view about them, and about that it's a government here, and it's also, by way or another, it's also serving everyone in Gaza Strip. So if we want to talk about rejoin, about between Fatah and Hamas and what happened before, Egyptians should have this example to solve their own problem without letting anyone, intervene in their own policy and in their own problems. And that's really what makes me very sad, that that a lot of countries getting involved in this Egyptian conflict, like it's like Egyptian-Israeli conflict. It's not that at all. It's Egyptian conflict. That's any waste of any blood, it's not in the benefit of anyone. And let's face it, if we want to talk about the final solution, the final solution will be to all the Egyptians to sit together and to solve it. There is no other solution.
There is none. No, that's true.
Mohammed, may I intervene and stay online? And I would like to answer. I would like to answer to you and put your mind on rest on that issue. First of all, we are not going to be split. This is out of the question. Egypt will always be united, and all the Egyptians are working towards regaining the power of Egypt as one united country back to where it should be. That's out of the question. intervention of other Western powers or anybody actually is not acceptable at that point, and we are not going to let anybody intervene in our domestic issues here. Don't worry about that. But let me focus. This is the program is actually for you guys, and what is going on in Egypt actually affects you as much as we all know. We understand, really. Let me explain to you the situation between Egypt and Gaza and the Rafah crossing. The thing is, we are not accepting anymore the tunneling between Egypt and Gaza. It's not acceptable. It's not going to happen again. We will destroy all the tunnels and they will never be opened again. That's I can assure you that. Now, let us talk about how to solve this situation politically and right. What should be done, what Gaza should do, what the government of Hamas or the Palestinian Authority should do is sit down and find a political solution to that. There is 7 crossings to Gaza. Only one looking over to Egypt. The 6 other crossings, if you remember the treaty of the Quartet that allows the 7 crossings to be opened under the Quartet supervision and the West Bank Authority seeing the and monitoring the in and out of the crossings, there was no problem. Everything was going fine till Hamas took over and split Gaza from the motherland. What he should do is return back to what it was. Bring back the authorities, bring back the Quartet, reopen all the 7 crossings and get everything legally in and out without saying that Egypt should open the Rafah crossing for personnel and goods.
Okay, you know what?
This is not your only solution, believe me.
Okay.
There is many other solutions to the situation.
Okay, Hesham, we only have 2 minutes. Nima, why don't you give us some closing thoughts?
My closing thought is, since this is a show about Palestine, there will not be peace in the Middle East so long as Israel stands, and Palestine will never become Palestine again so long as Israel stands. So this is something that everybody needs to think about. You know, I support a Palestinian state. This is, what can be done. There is no two-state solution. The peace process is a farce. It's a stalling process by Israel. My thing is that until this Atlanticist alliance of North America and Europe crumbles and Russia and China come into their own, that we're going to have this problem with these Zionists. And it's as simple as that. There won't be a Palestinian state as long as those people are in the Middle East.
Love you, Nima.
Love you too. Love you too, Hesham.
Well, on that note, Mohammed, thank you for joining us from Gaza. I mean, this was a fantastic show because why? It's an international show, and Americans tend to be too, what is the word, ethnocentric? Is that the word? We're too close. We're too narrow in our perspective. And the globe is, my engineer just looked at me like, oh, Kathleen, come on. But anyway.
Thank you, I'm still a fan of yours, and thank you, Kathleen, for a wonderful show. Thank you, Nima, and thank you all.
Thank you very much, everybody.
That intervention in Egypt.
Okay,
and goodbye to you guys.
This was fantastic. So we had Hesham from Egypt, Mohammed from Gaza, Harry from the world, and Nima from Berlin. And I'm here in Southern California at the Inland Empire. This is Palestine Today. Next week, I promise you, we're going to try and get Israeli peace activist Yuri Avery on the line. We had some technical difficulties. I've interviewed Yuri Avery before for the Huffington Post. You can just Google Kathleen Wells, Yuri Avery, and you will see that interview where we talk. He's fantastic. He's been involved for decades, probably 60, 70 years. So we'll be back next week. Let's hope we have Yuri. And thank you guys for joining me today at the last minute like this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you very much.
You're on board KCAA's Inland Talk Express. KCAA, Loma Linda, 1050 a.m., the station that leaves no listener behind.
From the KCAA Weather Center, I'm Chris Earl Phillips. For this afternoon, sunny and a high of 98. Tonight, partly cloudy, low around 70. Tomorrow, 30% chance of showers and thunderstorms. Some of the storms could produce heavy rainfall. Mostly sunny and a high of 94. Tomorrow night, 30% chance of showers and thunderstorms. Again, some of the storms producing heavy rainfall. Mostly cloudy, low around 68. On Monday, 30% chance of showers and thunderstorms. Some of the storms producing frequent lightning and heavy rain. Mostly sunny and a high near 94. That's your weather forecast for this hour from the station that leaves no listener behind. NBC News Radio, AM 1050, KCAA.
This is the KCAA Community Calendar. Join the next Believe Walk on Sunday, October 6th in the city of Redlands and help raise awareness and funds for local cancer-fighting organizations to ensure that the Inland Empire communities have the best cancer-fighting resources in Southern California. The Believe Walk registration opens at 6:30 a.m. and the walk begins at 8 a.m. The Believe Walk will start in downtown Redlands at State and Orange Street and finish at the Redlands Bowl. The online registration deadline is September 30th. That's the 6th annual Believe Walk on Sunday, October 6th in the city of Redlands. For more information, go to BelieveInlandEmpire.com. And that's your KCAA Community Calendar.
Living the country life. Ideas and inspiration for your place in the country.
Find new life for an old barn by salvaging the wood for projects such as